Um,
Hello and welcome to the Turn 4 podcast. I am your host, Dan Maldonado. If this is your first time listening, welcome. If you're a regular listener, welcome back. This podcast comes from two lifelong fans of IndyCar and other forms of motorsports. Two fans. That means I am your host. And let me introduce you to my co host, Tim Reiner. Hey, Timmy.
Hello, Dan. How are
How are
you?
you? I'm well. How are you?
Fantastic. No complaints on my side. Just
It's
going
wonderful.
through another week.
Yeah,
And I
getting
think the
ready to start
racing
another
season is going
weekend.
to start. At least that's what our
Yeah.
title of our show says. So I guess you got to be happy about that, right?
Tim, the season starts at Daytona,
I know. It seems
right? It
like it, right? Everybody's
does.
there.
I know. I love it. I love it. So
hmm
awesome.
When I say everybody, I'm talking about all the IndyCar people are there.
IndyCar people, Formula One people. We're going to talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah, yeah,
Got a
yeah.
lot of people
And a
going on
bunch of
there.
IMSA
So,
drivers too. So yeah.
yeah, it's wonderful. It's wonderful.
hmm
It's a great time. It is a great time. Motorsports getting ready to kick up just in time for, the football season is not quite done yet. But, we're both from the
Normally it's
Detroit
already
area.
done for
It
us,
is
right?
normally done at this time for us in Metro Detroit, but not this year. What do you think of them Lions, to me?
How about them Lions?
How
They're
about them
great, I
Lions?
guess. I kept saying all season, same old Lions, and I've been proved wrong. So I thought you were gonna have Lions gear on, but instead you got some new Turn 4 podcast gear.
I do, because I like to take new laundry to any event that we go to,
Yeah,
and since we'll be taking the show to Daytona this coming weekend, got
yeah,
some new birch to take with us there.
it
So
looks good, by the way.
thanks,
I
thanks.
was
I do like the shirt actually.
commenting on it prior to the show, so yeah,
Mhm.
it looks great.
All my clearance gear from Dick's Sporting Goods that we can just add our logo using the Cricket.
I
That's how
don't
you
know
do
what
it.
the cricket is, but
All right,
cricket
vinyl
did
clear.
well.
Look it up.
All right. So how about
Lions
them Lions? Did you enjoy
Lions.
that?
I did. I enjoyed that a lot. I enjoy the other games a whole lot more, and it's not because I'm not, a fan. It's because I am, right? So it's like you hate to see these things up and down. Um, Tim, you and I are of an age. We've never really seen the Lions do much of anything at all. I don't remember that 1991 season, which is the last time we were at the NFC Championship game. They allege, but
I remember it.
do you? I don't. I
I
really don't.
remember it because I was a Redskin fan back in the day, which are they're
Yeah.
now the Commanders, and so I was rooting for my team,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and
Because
they
that's who it
beat
was.
the
Yep.
Lions. Yes,
There you
so that's
go.
how I know.
Yeah.
So and then they went on, meaning my team went on to the Super Bowl and beat the Denver Broncos, I believe it was that year, and
When,
whooped them with Timmy Smith as the running back and a bunch of host of other people that I won't bore you with.
Look at that. Good job, Tim. Nice. Laying it down on me. Some football history.
Yeah.
Some Washington football team football history. I love it. I hate the
hmm
name
And
Commanders,
I'll
and
tell you,
we've moved on.
Washington was a very big underdog in that Super Bowl, and they came out and won with Doug Williams, which would have been the first black quarterback to win the Super Bowl. So
Oh, no kidding.
yeah,
There you go. Stat of the day. Stat of the day. In case you're a
yeah,
Dan Patrick's fan, there you go.
yeah.
Um, were you at all tempted to pay $1,000 plus to go see the Lions win or go see the Lions play at Ford Field?
Nope, not at all. Would not do that. Our neighbors
Nope.
have season tickets, and they bought the playoff tickets. And I found out. So anybody that's out there trying to get tickets online, I found out that their seats were only $85 each when they bought them for the postseason here. So
Well,
again, it was upper deck, but it's good seats at the one end zone. But so you could turn around and sell those for a lot of money. But they ended
yeah.
up going to the game.
Yeah, a good friend of mine, his family has 6 season tickets, and I know that they were there. His mom and dad were there, and everybody. So they were all pretty excited about it last weekend as well as this weekend. So I don't know what their status is for 49ers or for going to Santa Clara. It would not shock me at all if they would go out there and see the Lions in that game. It wouldn't surprise me at all.
Levi Stadium.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So,
Mm.
um, couple of things before we get started. That being one of them. Second one is in the last episode where we discussed Gilles de Ferran's career. I had mentioned that Gilles is tied with 12 career wins with Cristiano D'Amato, which I think most of our listeners certainly remember, and a driver that I hadn't heard of, and I believe you are the same, named
Mhm.
Tommy Milton. Well, Timmy,
There's a reason we haven't heard of him, and you're going to about tell it here in
yes,
a minute. Yes.
I love it when listeners pick up the stories for us, Tim. Brad from Wisconsin emailed to say, Tommy Milton raced successfully at Indianapolis. He has 2 wins, the 1921 and the 1923 Indianapolis 500. And this was after posting a 156 mile an hour land speed record in 1920. Think about that. 156 miles an hour in 1920 at, of all places, Daytona.
Yeah, wild for sure.
A little bit of history. In 1921, Ralph De Palma led 109 laps and had 2 laps on the field when a connecting rod broke, taking him out of the race. Tommy Milton and his riding mechanic, which I love the whole thought of that, and his riding mechanic, Harry Frank, went on to the win. Riding mechanic, he and Tommy Milton went on to win the 9th Indianapolis 500.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
Right? That's crazy because we're over 100, right? In 1923, this was a historic win for the reason that Tommy would become the first multi-time winner of the 500. The first 2-time winner of the Indianapolis 500. How about that, Timmy?
That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, even more to the intrigue, Howdy Wilcox, the 1919 winner, drove in relief for Tommy while Tommy had to stop and get his hands bandaged over laps 103 to 115 due to blisters. Even more intrigue, Timmy, in that same year, 1923, months before this historic running of the Indianapolis 500, the Indiana legislature passed a bill prohibiting commercial sporting events on Memorial Day. The local American Legion issued a public proclamation opposing the law on the grounds of free expression and being un-American in principle.
Fair. Totally fair. Yep.
Yeah. Governor at the time vetoed the bill as unconstitutional. And there we have the Indianapolis 500, ladies and gentlemen. I love it.
Which really doesn't fall on Memorial Day.
No, right. It doesn't.
Yeah. But that's so very good history for sure.
Yeah. Tommy Milton, born November 14th, 1893 in St. Paul, Minnesota, spent his final years in Mount Clemens, Michigan, which is like 35 minutes that way. He died on July 10th, 1962, aged 68.
At 68 back then?
At 68. Yeah, young.
Wow.
Thank you, Tommy Milton, for your contributions to the event, to motorsports in general. And of course, thank you, Brad, for bringing that to our attention. That was really, really cool. I enjoyed that, looking up the history of that. So I do appreciate it.
I think the coolest thing about this whole write-up, and obviously the information is great, but I love that Brad had sent pictures at the same time, which are really cool, which I ended up looking at our email today, and because I saw this reference, and I was like, let me see what's going on here. So the pictures were amazing too, and maybe we'll have to post some of those on our Twitter, or Instagram.
Totally should.
Really cool stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, great stuff. So thanks for doing that. That was really fun. Hey, Tim, Daytona 24, before we get into it, I just want to talk to you a little bit about an Autosport article that I read over the weekend entitled Formula One Drivers Competing in the Daytona 24 Hours and Previous Winners. Can I lay a few names on you, Timmy? I'm gonna give you
interesting article, right? Why is it IndyCar drivers? Is this where you?
That's kind of where I'm going with this, right? So here, let me just bundle these up for the listeners. Sebastian Bourdais, Alexander Rossi, Marcus Ericsson.
They're all IndyCar drivers to me.
All IndyCar drivers to me. Ericsson's the one that might sit the fence at 97 starts. But he is, of course, the 2022 Indy 500 winner. He has 4 wins, 10 podiums, no poles, which I find very interesting. Alexander Rossi has 5 starts in the Indianapolis, or in Formula 1. 5 starts. It's 5 more than you or me, but 5 starts nonetheless. 2016 Indy 500 winner, 2018 IndyCar Series runner-up, 8 wins, 29 poles. Tim, these guys are, and Bourdais, of course, is a legend of open wheel racing, IndyCar, Champ Car, 4-time winner. These are not Formula One drivers, Tim.
I agree. I think definitely they're IndyCar drivers, and so I think what you're doing with the title of this is you're trying to get as many listeners
Clickbait.
as, yeah, exactly. That's what it
Yeah,
is.
exactly.
That's what it is. You figure Formula One is very popular all across the world, if you will, and IndyCar's got its little following, and I say little, but it's in comparison. So yeah, so you're absolutely right. It's clickbait.
Yep. Without a doubt, you know who is Formula One, Formula form, former Formula One drivers who are competing in this year's field is one Jenson Button, right?
Yeah,
Former world champion, 306 starts, and Felipe Massa, 269 starts. Notable perhaps as Schumacher's teammate at Ferrari, notable perhaps as somebody who is now suing Formula One for losing a championship
yeah.
at a time where he thinks there was some shenanigans going on there that might have robbed him from that. So that is the for sure category. The both category I would give, since you're not willing to give Ericsson, neither am I actually. Roman Grosjean, Formula One driver. I'd agree with that.
Yeah,
Wouldn't you?
I
169
agree with
starts.
that. Yeah, totally agree that
Yeah,
he's a Formula One driver. He hasn't really assimilated completely over to IndyCar, and people see him as an IndyCar driver. He's still a Formula One driver, so
totally agree.
I get that. So three of them we got to whack out of there, right?
Yep. Yeah. In the sure, I guess category, Paul DeResta, Felipe Nasr, Brendan Hartley, and Jean Maria Bruni. Clickbait.
Okay. Yep, total clickbait.
Clickbait.
We're gonna have to change some of our headings on some stuff, so we get a couple more clicks. We'll just
Yeah, we should
stretch the truth a little bit and see what happens.
Mm-hmm. Turn 4 podcast takes issue with former Formula One Daytona 24 starters. I like it.
Perfect. I love it.
There you go.
I want to read that one.
Timmy, do you know how many IndyCar drivers are starting in the Daytona 24 field?
I read the notes, so I do know. Otherwise, I would have.
How many?
I would. There are 14.
That's
so
right.
Competing in this, and I think we're going to go through them and just let the listeners know.
We're just going to try to marinate this thing. We're going to talk about the IndyCar drivers, the teams in which they're racing for, and I'll give you a couple of opinions.
So the IndyCar season kind of starts. I know it's a really big stretch, but through the
I love it. It's clickbait. IndyCar season starts at Daytona.
Yes, forget the long gaps. We're starting early. Right. Yes, so people have to start posting that. You figure 14
out of 27 full timers. Yeah.
Yes, that's a lot.
That is a lot. Yeah. That is a lot.
That's over half the field, if my math.
That's right. Yeah. You could make an argument that it's 15 because Devlin's in the field, but Devlin it doesn't have an announced full-time ride.
Oh,
as of
is Jack in the field?
Today. Jack is not in the Daytona field.
All right, I was just asking.
I almost wore my "You Don't Know Jack" shirt.
Yeah, because somebody
but since it's not the "You Don't Know today. Jack" podcast,
we'll get to that later.
Wear our shirt
about why Dan is just very excited. About today.
So in no particular order, Scott Dixon and Alex Palou will be driving the 01 Ganassi Cadillac alongside regulars Bourdais and Van der Zandt. This is, of course, the yellow and black Cadillac. Why does this matter? Because it's not the best livery out there, and they went away from it.
Time out. That's your 15th Bourdais. We just said he was an IndyCar driver.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Current full-time IndyCar driver.
Oh, all right. So we're talking about current. Very good.
Timmy, Dixon has 3 Rolexes already. This is Palou's first Daytona 24. I suspect he's going to do just fine in IndyCar because he takes care of the equipment. He's a smooth driver. I think he's going to do very well there.
So with 3 Rolex watches, do you think he'd give up all 3 for another Indy 500 win?
Without a doubt.
All right.
I think so. I think without a doubt. I know he cherishes those. I'm certain that he cherishes those.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But one more Indy 500, he's been so close, dude. Right.
But I think that's a question like for the listeners too. Would you give up 3 Rolex watches for the 24 hours to get a second Indy 500 win? I think you would.
Yeah, I think you would. Palou seems to be getting a lot of reps We talked about football in the beginning, so that's the best word I could come up with right now. Palou was getting a lot of reps during the roar before the 24, so it was bringing him up to speed. Kind of a late announcement. I don't know. Maybe it was, he's got a new baby at home, so maybe it was just making sure that mom and new baby and everybody was good before he heads out, because this is a tall task, right? They've got the roar before the 24, which is the practice and qualifying going into the Daytona 24, and then they're going to go to preseason testing at Homestead. So he's going to leave Daytona, go down to Homestead, do preseason testing there, and then get a chance to.
They started today.
Right. Maybe head home before he has to head back for the Daytona 24. Yeah. So, but yeah, good luck to them. Be on the lookout for that. Cadillacs were fast today, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. This is just one Ganassi Cadillac entry for this year, because the second Ganassi Cadillac entry is racing in Europe in the WEC. I have no idea why that does that. In the WEC, the World Endurance Championship in Europe, in the GM citing cost constraints and being able to support this many efforts. So that's where we see that. As a side note, Dan's favorite livery is not racing in Europe either. So,
okay, that's good.
There's that.
Hey,
Marcus, go ahead.
Before you, I know you're going, and it's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
I checked the weather today, and I know we talk about weather. Mm-hmm. It's supposed to be 81 both Friday and Saturday. You guys are going to have the perfect weather. So if
it's 40 degrees overnight, we're going to freeze our butts.
It's 68, 67 at night. You guys are going to have a fabulous time. So there you go.
You're missing out.
I know I am.
I won't need to eat all those chicken tenders and everything else just to keep my body heat. But I'm ready.
True.
I don't care. I have layers. I've got this. I've got layers.
You don't need it. I think you should take your shorts and have a good time.
Are you Christ?
What?
These legs haven't seen sunlight since what, August?
That'll be fine.
Can't
you'll be fried.
Fried to a crisp. Remember, you and I were fried to a crisp one year we went there.
So funny.
Yeah.
Make sure you wear a hat. I want you to burn your scalp.
I have a new hat too, with our logo on it.
Where is it?
Well, I don't know if I'm going to wear it. It doesn't fit me well, so I may end up just dropping it in the mail and sending it to you.
Is it like around? Can you? I don't have a
big head. I got a big face, and this hat just doesn't seem to work with the whole look. I got a lot of round here, Tim. I got a lot of. If you're watching us on the YouTube, my face is very round, so I've got a lot of Ernie, and those stock or what are they, knit hats? Don't those don't really work well on us.
Yeah.
On this head. Moving along.
Two of the drivers around in the third one. All right.
Yeah. Marcus Ericsson is the first of the Andretti trio that will be lining up at the Daytona 24. Marcus is going to line up alongside Ricky Taylor, Philippe Albuquerque, and Brendan Hartley in the number 10 Wayne Taylor Racing with Andretti Auto or Andretti Global Acura. This is the legacy WTR Andretti Global Acura entry. And I say legacy because they have an expansion team this year. Yeah. It's the number 40 Wayne Taylor Racing with Andretti Global Acura. That'll be piloted by Colton Herta, Jensen Button, Formula One driver.
That's pretty cool.
Louis Delatras and Jordan Taylor. So the Taylor brothers are splitting the two rides. This expansion, of course, comes at the loss of Meyer Shank Racing, who won last year's Daytona 24, but was later found to have skirted the rules a bit in some pressures and sort of tire doping a little bit. And
do you say tire doping?
That just came to me. I didn't even write that in the notes. I know that's probably a very
you caught my attention.
Stretch.
I was drifting off for a half a second, and you said tire doping, and I was like, yeah. And it's amazing that it was Honda who pointed it out.
Honda pointed it out, right? Blew the whistle on him on that one, which is very interesting. So I got a couple of things for you, Tim. Was that too harsh on the part of Honda? Nobody's ever said, but let's face it. It's a little too coincidental to be coincidental. I believe it looks to me like Meyer Shank lost their Honda Acura factory team in IMSA in large part because of this cheating situation.
Yeah, I think so.
You agree?
Yeah, I think it's a culture thing in Honda, right? They don't want to be associated with that, and so they pulled the plug. I don't think they're and maybe they with Andretti Global, maybe they thought that was a better way to go, bigger organization and stuff like that. But at the same time, I think they made the decision. Let's say Meyer Shank made the decision easy on Honda to make that switch.
Yeah. Yeah, because if Wayne Taylor and Michael Andretti were sniffing around trying to get an expansion, I think that situation might have made it easier for Acura to say, well, we don't have to pull out a third car. We could just move this second car over to, Wayne Taylor and Michael Andretti.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, it's sharp. It's sharp as hell. It's red. It's my red, right? It's like the maroon burgundy red. Nice. It's sharp. You got to look it up. It's so nice. I know. I'm worried about your color blindness. It's so weird.
Well, you're right. It must be a maroon, deep purple maroon.
Yeah, deep purple maroon. Good God. Kyle Kirkwood rounds out the Andretti trio participating this year as he again suits up to contest the Vassar Sullivan GTD Pro Lexus with Jack Hawksworth, former IndyCar driver, Mike Conway, and Ben Barnicoat. Timmy, question for you. Mike Conway was a 2007 and 2008 F1 test driver with Honda. Does that make him a former Formula One driver?
Yes.
There you go. So we got one more we got to add to the list, Autosport. Porsche Penske Motorsports will have the 2023 Indy 500 winner, Joseph Newgarden, step up this year to the GTP class to drive alongside Dane Cameron, who's a Penske veteran, Matt Campbell, and Philippe Nasr. I say step up because last year Joseph partnered with his bus bro, Scott McLaughlin, to compete in the LMP2 category for Tower Motorsports. I don't want to talk too much with my hands because whatever the Zoom's got going on here, right? It always seems to throw us up some kind of
balloons and thumbs up.
Something, or the thumbs up, right?
It keeps coming. Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
There it is. Yeah.
But Scott will be suiting up again in LMP2 for Tower Motorsports, and that's another IndyCar regular suiting up in. So that's going on there. Had to talk to our executive producer, who was going to help us out.
Yeah, I saw that. You had some conversation going on there.
If you remember that car last year, Tim, that Tower Motorsports ride that was last year with Newgarden and McLaughlin, they had some mechanical issues, it seemed like, right out of the gate. So they never really had a chance to contest last year's event. Yeah. So hopefully they get that together and they can move forward and Scott McLaughlin gets the full Daytona 24 experience. Yeah,
I think you want that for Scotty Mack. He took a big risk coming over here, coming to IndyCar and now doing IMSA here for the 24. And he's a good dude, right? You just want good dudes to succeed. So hopefully they have a much better outing this year.
Yeah. Tom Blomqvist, who was a series regular with Meyer Shank in IMSA before he moved on to IndyCar this year. He is going to again suit up for the 24 and partner with the Whelen Cadillac team alongside Pippo Durrani and Jack Aitken. I looked at this. They only have 3 drivers. Maybe I overlooked something. I was going to recheck this, but that's what I saw. So nonetheless, Tom Blomqvist, he's going to keep his IMSA skills handy in the GTP category, but moving over to the Cadillac with Whelen. Another Quist out there in Daytona this year. Felix Rosenquist will be in the LMP2 in the United Autosport entry alongside Dan Goldberg, Paul DiResta, and Bijoy Garg, who I've never heard of, but that's a fun name. Paul DiResta, I believe, has some sort of F1 connection as well. He wasn't in the Autosport article. What is interesting is United...
Oh, I thought you were going to the next one. Yeah.
No. So United Autosport has 2 LMP2 offerings this year. And in the other side is the former McLaren teammate of Felix Rosenquist, Pato O'Ward, will drive alongside Nico Pino. There's another fun name. Ben Keating and Ben Hanley, the Bens.
Award should be. So you're doing a great job.
Yeah. Awards should be interesting to watch in an endurance race, Tim. The guy only knows one way to do this thing, all out. And in endurance, right? You don't really
Oh
get to go
yeah.
all out until later in 20 hours later.
Yeah, yeah. Even 22 hours later, whatever it is,
Right,
right?
right.
You just want a good pace and overall pace and not pushing it too much. But it'll be interesting. It'll be nice to see him out there for sure. So
Yeah, it'll be fun.
yeah,
I got to
just
really
gotta coach
try
him.
to
Just coach him.
watch yeah, they have to just watch him and kind of coach him and make sure that he's up to speed with what's happening there. Got to get it to the end. And it's a long race. It can be a very long race if there's issues with the uh with the car overdriving it.
Yep. Yeah.
Um
Gotta go to
Brings us back
Rossi.
to former Formula One driver Alexander Rossi. Will
Yeah.
compete with his off-track co-host James Hinchcliffe, former IndyCar driver, in the FAF Motorsports McLaren entry. If you remember, Tim, and some of our listeners might remember that the FAF Motorsports entry in years past was I believe they call it a moose plaid Porsche, right? The red and black plaid.
Mm-hmm.
And this year that moves over to a McLaren entry with kind of a ghost plaid, but really adhering to the McLaren papaya black and gray livery with that ghost plaid. We're calling it ghost plaid because you can kind of see it faintly in the gray when you look that up. Makes sense. Alexander Rossi would be in this. He's current McLaren driver. Makes sense that Hinchcliffe would be here, not just because he's good chums with Alexander Rossi, but because he is Canadian and the FAF Motorsports people are a Canadian team. So it kind of makes sense in there. I'm interested to see, because we'll definitely hear about it on Off Track with Hinch and Rossi, what Rossi's take is on going into the GTP Pro class and racing alongside Hinchcliffe, because as you recall, Rossi had previously run in the top class, right? The GTP.
Who do you think is faster in the car?
Who do I think is faster in these cars? It's
Yeah,
a good question. They talked about it this week or last week on Off Track, and they're not gonna keep, but somebody will, right?
of course. There's telemetry on all of them, so you
I
can.
think, yeah, my head wants to tell me that Rossi would be faster of the two, because that's your question, right? Is who's faster between Rossi and Hinch?
Yeah, yeah.
But my heart tells me Hinch, right? Like I want to believe that Hinch is faster. The car came together a little bit later though, so they are a little bit behind in terms of testing. Being able to test the car and get the car ready to go, which shows in qualifying.
Yeah. Well, it'll be fun to watch them for sure. They're great characters on their show, and then having them in the same. Oh,
That's Paige's
yes.
hat.
Very nice. I like that.
Right?
It's fabulous. Did you guys iron that one out too?
No, this one, my friend of mine embroidered it for me.
Ooh. They're cool. Nice
Which
stuff.
like I said, I think I might just send this one to you because
It looks good. I think you
you're
should wear it.
out of your mind if you
Just don't
think
go
that
in a
looks good.
gas station wearing that. They might think you're up to something besides purchasing gas.
And my Elio Castro Neves hair didn't get messed up at all.
I
when
know,
tried
that's
on that hat.
amazing. You haven't aged either. You're just like Elio.
Your hair doesn't mess up either when you put a hat on.
No, it doesn't. It just falls out. So that's it.
The bold guy.
I
Love
that's
that.
funny. That's a throwback.
Yep. GTD class will have an IndyCar and F1 celebrity with Grosjean piloting a GT3 Evo 2 Lamborghini in this year's event. That's going to be fun because, we always see these. I think that's going to be fun. I'm not casting any dispersions, but I cannot wait to see GTP LMP2 making a pass on Roman Grosjean in the GT Lamborghini and some of those twisty bits.
Yeah,
because you know what happens.
Oh yeah,
you know what happens.
Yeah.
Yep, I think for sure. Kevin Simpson and Christian Rasmussen round out the IndyCar regulars competing this year. Simpson, of course, is the shock pick as the fifth Andretti or Ganassi IndyCar entry this year. He'll be a rookie in IndyCar, but he's no rookie in IMSA. He has starts in 22 and 23. Rasmussen is noted in some sources for this info, putting this show together, as the part-time Ed Carpenter Racing rookie. Tim, did you realize that was a part-time entry?
Well, it's because Ed's doing the ovals, or no? There's something else going on.
I get you could draw that conclusion. I mean, it makes the most sense.
I didn't know. No, that's news to me.
Yeah, but that is news to me. So it feels like Ed Carpenter Racing will be a 2-car effort for the season, except for Indy, perhaps. So
3 cars. So
it's interesting.
I don't like those one-offs. That needs to stop, in my opinion. Like, stop showing up at ovals. You're gonna race the whole season.
You mean like Marco?
Yeah, like, stop showing up. You're terrible. It's terrible. It's terrible in the way that you can't compete.
Charlie Mack right now is choking on a piece of pizza.
I love the Andretti's. I got a dog named Andretti, by the way. I don't know if we first discussed this. My dog's name is Andretti. That's not disrespectful. It's just, my wife and my daughter wanted a dog, and I said the only way we're getting a new dog, which this is 3 years ago, by the way,
right,
is if I can name it. And so her name is Andretti. We call her Dre or Andy, but mostly Andretti. So I'm a fan, but it just stop with the one-offs. It's terrible.
Can I throw you one more?
Sure.
We're on a tangent, brother. I love tangents. Elio Castroneves, one-off, Indy 500.
He should continue because he's going for 5.
Okay. There's qualifiers. There's qualifying.
Yeah, there are qualifiers for sure. Like, you're granted in. Like, you can come when you're 80 and run. Even Mario tried to do it when he was pretty old. So from that perspective, like, that's fine. But if you've not done it, I know. Let's talk about Marco. His rookie year, he almost won the thing. Didn't win it. He lost it to Sam Hornish, right?
Was there on my father?
Who knows what Sam Hornish is doing these days? But and then the season. I don't know what happened after that. You have 2 wins, I think it is, in IndyCar. Charlie, please correct me if I'm wrong. But it's just one of those things where you shouldn't be showing up. And I know last year the car wasn't good, and he was complaining about it rather than giving input to the team, in my opinion, to make it better. And it was almost like a waste of his time. So if it's a waste of his time, it's a waste of our time.
I think it's hard to. It's funny, we're going to talk about Marco Andretti later. I think it's hard to show up at Indy, the only race you run, right, year after year, and offer thoughtful input in what the car needs.
Yeah.
I mean, we complain about the DW12 is a 12-year-old chassis, let's say. Very little updates. But I think the behind-the-scenes updates with dampers and aero and everything else, I don't think you can show up at Indy and just immediately adapt yourself to whatever changes, large or small, are taking place.
Mm-hmm. Well,
and be able to offer.
I think if you have years and years of experience, you should be able to bring some input. But I get it, right? There's going to be nuances of the car, and to your point, some technology that's going into it that you don't have knowledge of. So, but I don't know why you do it. Like, I get it; it's the Indy 500. Maybe that's why you do it, and we should just accept it and be happy. I know. It brings into the 33 car field, it brings in the bumping and all that stuff. And hopefully there's a lot more than 34 this year. So there's some drama there. And
man, Kevin Lee wants more than 34 in a bad way, because he's been talking about 35, 36 possible entries. I like Kevin Lee.
I mean, your driver guy that you want to have back?
No, Kevin Lee.
I know. But
talking about Jack Harvey?
No.
Or who are you talking about?
Ryan Hunter-Reay.
Oh, Lord. Him too. You're right about that.
That's what I meant.
You're right about that. Connor Daly too. That's another one. So we do have actual qualifying results for Daytona this year. GTP Whelen Engineering Cadillac, the defending series champs, beat out the Ganassi Cadillac by 7 hundredths, 7 hundredths. But not only that, they smashed the track record on the way to this pole, by the way. Beat that track record by more than a second, which is, Tim, a big deal.
Yeah, and I think all the GTP cars were
above the track record.
Beat the record. So that's a big deal. A lot of R&D has gone into those cars to make them quicker and quicker. Yeah,
they have figured out, I think, the hybridization of the car. I think they figured out the tire, which changed last year, probably due to cost, right? We don't follow the series that closely, but I would a lot of change in particular like that generally is
Mhm.
led by cost. So I would guess that that's where that is. So the teams came prepared for figuring out hybridization, and they came prepared to figure out this tire. So LMP2 is the United Autosports team. This is the second United Autosports team that Pato Award is signed up with. They take pole in that category. GTD Pro is the AO Racing Porsche 911 that beat out Jack Hawksworth in the Vassar Sullivan Lexus by 0.08 of a second.
The Lexus cars are going to win that. GTD Pro and GTD,
should.
by the way. Yeah.
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 Should. And I'm watching the GTD Pro category mainly because this year you have the much anticipated return of the Ford Mustang in this category. That Mustang is about a second and a half off of the pole, but again, it's an endurance race, so they got to get to the end. The car looks fantastic. I've never really been a big Mustang fan, but I like this Mustang a lot.
Are they calling it the Mach-E?
No, God, no. And don't ever call the Mach-E a Mustang again. Which, by the way, I would have one, but I would never call it a Mustang. I would never tell anybody I drive a Mustang Mach-E. I would tell people I drive a Mach-E.
That's what Ford calls it.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I listened to a podcast with Bill Ford Jr. and he was raving about it and said he didn't agree with the Mustang name either until he drove it, and then now he's all about it. So, what else is he going to say? The Multimatic is the team that is helping field this Ford Mustang. Multimatic is the team that used to field the Mazda LMD, whatever we called the top series back in then before they were hybrid. But that's who's fielding that car. So Multimatic's very, very capable engineering firm of getting a car right. They don't have it right just yet. Could be a balance of power situation, but like I said, at the end of the day, you just got to get to the finish, and it's 24 long hours. So
yeah,
so there must be anxious to watch that
there from back in the day when Ford owned Mazda, knew the team, and came up with the Century. So relationships matter on that front, right? When it comes to launching new things, and so that's got to be a product of that.
Yeah, because the last time Ford competed in IMSA was with Ganassi, who has a very strong relationship with the Cadillac on the Cadillac side. So it would make sense that GTs, Ford would have to find that. Yeah.
Yep. That was really cool to see.
They were, and they sounded so good, didn't they? They were like so quiet, so smooth that they had a really harsh downshift in that transmission. But otherwise, I mean, they were very, very, well, I'll put it to you this way. You could hear the harshness of the downshifts because the engine was so quiet compared to the other cars in the same category.
Yeah, they were. Because those were V6 supercharged versus that category had a lot of V8s at the time.
Isn't it what's in my Expedition? Was it a twin turbo EcoBoost, right?
Yeah, same thing that's in mine. Yep.
Yeah. GTD Vassar.
And speaking of your Expedition, I saw a purple one. I mean a maroon one.
You did?
You mentioned you couldn't get it in that color, and I don't know if somebody painted it or what, but I saw it at Kroger the other day. Sorry, everybody. And
there's a red that was in the year before.
It was a maroon. It was right up your alley, and I was like, why isn't Dan driving that one? So anyway, you might want to check it out.
When I ordered it's too late now. When I ordered my Expedition, it was pretty much monochrome. I did not have a lot of choices available to me. Since then, there's a blue, there's a green, and something else that wasn't available to me when I did my order. So, which again, right? You're gonna add colors mid-season or mid-cycle. Should have. GTD Vassar Sullivan Lexus in the GTD category takes pole over the MDK Motorsports Porsche. It's Porsche and Lexus. GTD Pro. Yeah. It's Porsche and Lexus.
Yeah. And
BMW's nowhere to be found. And they look funny, right? They look huge on track, don't they?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. The Lexus does too, but I mean, they look huge on track.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be fun to watch. You know, you're going to be there live, and I'll be watching here. It'll be great. It'll be good to see. And quite the IndyCar lineup in the field, which is pretty awesome to see. So a lot of reasons for IndyCar fans to watch IMSA, which
Absolutely.
good for IMSA, right?
Right.
Really good for IMSA.
At some point, we have to have, a guest or somebody on the show. It'd have to be a guest, but somebody on the show to really talk about how it is that manufacturers are drawn to IMSA in a
Flocking
way
to
that they're
IMSA.
not. Yeah, that they're not drawn to IndyCar.
Yeah,
Because
sore topic.
Tim, it can't be cheap.
I know it'd be a real good one to understand, so you can sort of get a better knowledge of what IndyCar is doing versus what they're doing and what makes that manufacturer go from one to the other. And maybe it's someone from the manufacturer side that comes on and talks about it, because you got the head of motorsports, and I think it's a few things. Well, I don't want to get into it. We can get into it another day. So
Yeah. Want to walk the grid with me?
let's do it.
Testing at Homestead for IndyCar, January 22nd to the 24th. I feel like I'm doing an ad for those old Silverdome commercials. Remember, testing, January 22nd to 24th. At the Pontiac Silverdome. That's gonna be a tough turnaround, right, for those participating in the road before the 24. We did not have results. I had you on delay when you said you were ready to go. I was making coffee. I was also trying to find results from testing today. I was looking for my shirt and getting ready. I didn't see anything. The only thing I saw was one thing that said that Felix led testing today. Felix Rosenquist was fastest in testing today. I didn't see anything else. There was no.
And the Meyer Shank.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. New livery, I kind of saw too.
That's what I heard, but it's
purple and black, so I don't know.
Pink. You're obsessed with purple. It's pink.
This is the purple show, by the way.
Yeah, it's the purple show. No results yet, but we'll figure something out. I'm sure I'll be watching it anxiously. And do you know why I'm watching it anxiously, Tim? Guess who's there?
Jack, your guy.
RV.
You don't know Jack. Yeah.
You don't know Jack. Jack is back. Tim, Dalecoin Racing, Jack Harvey. Is this a big deal or big deal?
Big deal.
Oh, Timmy, it's a big deal.
It's sort of a big deal. I'm happy for him if he gets that seat. I'm thrilled. But obviously he's a nice guy. So yeah.
He wouldn't stop for me at Indy last year. Remember, I tried to stop him a bunch of times.
He blew you off.
Sure did. I was wearing a shirt.
Yeah.
2 years ago, I was the only guy wearing a high V shirt.
You were just looking for a picture, weren't you? Just hey.
That's all I was looking for.
Yeah,
yep.
Didn't happen.
Leader Circle payouts will increase in 2024. I'm sure it's welcome news by the team owners who were blindsided by the reduction that preceded last season. It will get back up over $1 million. I didn't read Mark Miles's thing because I'm sure it was, a lot of qualifiers and everything else, because that's how that usually goes. Timmy, is that a big deal or big deal?
From a fan's perspective, it's a big deal, but obviously from an IndyCar owner's experience and all that, it's a big deal. So it's good to see that Penske opened its wallet a little more and has got the dollars to do that. So I don't think it's not going to change anything from a viewership standpoint, but we'll help the teams out for sure.
It will be interesting.
What do you think? You think it's a big deal or just?
No, I think it's a big deal. Yeah, big deal. It would be interesting to see. What will be a big deal to me is this. Somebody will eventually leak on some podcast or on some show or somewhere along the line that says, even if Andretti goes back to 4 cars, he's not getting that 4th winner circle anymore. That once he decided to stop that team, I think that old agreement that he had with IndyCar, I think that goes away.
Yeah, but I don't think there's anything wrong with that. If that's what the rules are, then that's what the rules are. So
yeah. IndyCar seeking clarity, quote unquote, on non-points race in Argentina. This was a headline in an article on racer.com. Timmy, I don't remember you and I talking about this. Are you a fan of these non-points exhibition races?
So we've talked about this. I'm not a fan at all.
Okay.
Yeah, we've talked about this. I'm not a fan. If you're going to race, then put some points on it. I don't, unless there's, for some reason, some teams are not going to go because of expenses, then maybe
possible.
If that's the reason you're doing it on points, then I get it. But if you're in a series and you're running races, then you should be points. And I can't. Is this thermal thing? Is this a non-points race too?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
a money race.
it's yeah. So I don't like it.
Yep.
You?
No, I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of that. I think it's a waste of everybody's time. I don't know that it needs to happen that way. I think you can do exhibitions like, Canapino did last year. Take a car down there, do some donuts somewhere, and show it off and gain some support for the
Mhm.
series and make sure that they've got good broadcast rights and people are watching the series. Eventually, somebody will want to bring it down. Here's the deal. Argentina has inflation rates over 200% right now. They just went through an election. They elected a very colorful character as their president. And with the inflation backdrop, I mean, think about the inflation that we're coming off of was double digits, not triple,
Mhm.
right? Not high triple digits, double digit inflation here. Which, let's face it, Tim, we have it pretty good in the U.S., right? I mean, many of us do, and that inflation over the past couple of years was tough on a lot of us.
Mhm.
200%. I don't know where the money is coming from to bring IndyCar down there, even if it is reduced expenses for a certain amount of teams. But it feels to me this got leaked because IndyCar is going to shut it down quickly. That says, ain't going to happen.
Mhm. Yeah, I think their economy has been a mess for a long, long time
It's
in
been a mess for a
Argentina.
while.
Yeah, so
An oil producing company, country, if I'm not mistaken, I believe they're a member of OPEC, and
oh
yet they still continue to
yeah,
have issues with
yeah,
that world market and their oil export.
yeah.
I'm going
What?
way off script here. I'm not looking up any of this stuff, so please don't correct. I mean, you can feel free to correct me, but I'm not stating any of this as fact. I'm stating this as what I believe in my periphery.
Yeah, like if it happens, I guess that's great. If it doesn't, I don't think it's a big deal. I think there's a huge fan base that is looking forward to having IndyCar there, but you got to do it the right way and you got to make it part of the season, in my opinion, fill some
Yeah.
gaps and do it early in the season. It's beautiful down there, so just make it happen early and
Yep.
go.
It's not in here, so let me get that because that did come up since the last show. Was Mark Miles, again my favorite speaker, talking about we don't want to be locked into Texas Motor Speedway. Maybe we can do some other things. Does that mean Coda could come back to the schedule? Are you a fan of that? What's your thoughts?
I'm not even sure what he's saying there, but it
He's
sounds
saying
like
that
you lost
they're
a
looking at
you
their
lost a
options in Texas.
yeah, you lost a race track, and then you're gonna say, oh, we want to keep our options open. That's why we didn't lock that down. I, I don't mind Coda as long as you stay within track limits. Because
How about
it
race a
was
different configuration? Stay within track limits, but how about you race a different configuration
yeah, for sure,
in
do
Formula
that.
One?
And
Because you've
yeah,
got options there for configurations.
yeah, I think that makes sense. Or I don't know if you go in the streets. They tried Houston in the streets a while back, so I don't know if that makes sense. But
Nope.
you gotta reinvent yourself a little bit there. And as you always point out, that market is important because there's a lot of sponsors
NTT.
and potential
Mm-hmm.
manufacturers that are in that area. So I think you need to bring the cars there, the teams there, and have a race. Um, is a Texas Motor Speedway make sense? I think you need some ovals, right? But
It does make
um,
sense, but you gotta. I think IndyCar has to probably do a deal with them, maybe split the cost of running the event and assume the marketing,
mhm.
right? Because there's no marketing
Yeah,
going on there. I've said it before on this show. We have a friend who lives in the market who didn't even know that the race was going on that weekend. Found out after
yeah,
the
it's
fact. The
terrible.
guy's an Indy 500 fan, right? He goes in the Indy
Yeah,
500 every
yeah, it goes
year.
every year. Yeah,
So that goes to show you, right?
good. Yeah,
So
yeah. And I don't
they're
like
not
the
doing a good job
optics when
there.
you don't promote it
Nope.
and it's on TV. People are like, well, why would I
It
watch
looks like a
that? So,
test session on TV,
yeah,
right?
it's
15
terrible.
people in the stands and you're
Yep.
just going around. Ferrucci in, Peterson out at Foyt. Kind of odd how this all went down, though, Timmy, right? They
Bizarre.
announced Stingray Robb was coming in. Peterson puts out his own statement welcoming Stingray to the team. Um, Peterson's not with the team anymore. But you're good with this, aren't you?
Yeah, I
Santucci
don't
brings his
mind.
helmet,
Yeah.
his hair, and his personality to
Yeah, I don't
IndyCar
mind
again
it.
full
They were
time.
so terrible last year, though. Hopefully, this new partnership helps them out and they can actually do something. I think Ferrucci's obviously a really good talent, and
They were terrible all but one race.
yeah, they just
And it's
didn't
the
have
only
a
race that matters to this team.
yeah, they just didn't have a car, right? Yeah, it's the Indy 500, of course, you're talking about. So, um,
They have a Penske partnership this
I'm
year.
excited about it, but I'm only excited if the team can do something. And they've proven year after year after year they can't do it. But their partnership now may help them out.
Yeah. Ferrucci got married over the weekend too, by the way.
I had no idea.
So
Congrats.
it's a great month to be Santino Ferrucci.
I was gonna say, but the dog just took like 6 levels down from importance. His dog. So when you get married,
Mm-hmm.
wife goes way above the dog level. But he was
Way
taking that
above the
dog
doggy.
everywhere. I'm sure the dog's gonna be
Of course.
there. But congratulations to him and his new bred.
Mazel tov. Very colorful team boss, Gunter Steiner, relieved of his duties at Haas F1. Big deal. Or big deal, Timmy.
It's a big deal.
That is a big deal.
He's such a colorful character, but they
Was he?
were last in the championship.
Totally. But I think it could be argued that, Gene Haas doesn't invest in that team. I mean, I don't care what he says. He doesn't invest in that team at the level that
Yeah,
even Williams is putting into that team, right? Gene Haas is a billionaire. Billionaires don't get to be billionaires by just throwing money away, but you know what
absolutely
you're
right.
getting into when you are getting into a Formula One team. Said he wouldn't
Well,
sell.
find a sponsor. Why are you doing Haas automation? I know he's trying to
MoneyGram
grow it.
is their sponsor last year, right? And I think it'll be their sponsor coming this year.
Oh, well.
But if
A
you're
lot of his
spending,
sponsors default and
yeah,
everything else, so
yeah,
it's not well run in my opinion. But that's
no.
just because I'm looking from the outside. Maybe it is on the inside.
But does that start at Gunter Steiner or does it go to Gene?
I think it goes to Gene to start, but I think Steiner has something to do with this too, right? He's a colorful character. I would think he's a great leader, but it hasn't really materialized. And you can always point the finger and say there's not enough funding going into it to make it competitive, which I think that was the argument between the two that sort of broke this deal up.
Yeah.
So
Gene thinks they should be doing better. He's tired of being humiliated every weekend.
yeah, but you got to look inside yourself too at the same time. And what are we doing as a team to make ourselves better? But if you're constantly being told no at the top of the house, and of course, I don't know if that's the case, but if you are, then you get frustrated and you want to move on and, you have an argument and off they go.
Yeah. I don't know
I wonder
that
where he's going to go. Love him to come. I love his
TV.
person. Yeah. Well, I don't think they can put him on TV because they'd have to beep every other word.
Yeah.
But he lives in the Carolinas, as you have mentioned a few times. And so you've got obviously NASCAR there, but you got IndyCar, you got places for him to go. I don't know if he'd make that move, but I'm sure he's set for this season to do whatever he wants to do. But there's got to be people talking to him, I would think.
Maybe. Haas F1 underperformed Ferrari and they have a very close relationship with Ferrari. But they didn't dramatically underperform against last year's Alfa Romeo team, which had a not as close a relationship with Ferrari because Sauber, who's the team that owns that, has a very capable engineering staff and always has longstanding in Formula One team. But they didn't that dramatically underperform Ferrari there either. So, it makes you wonder, right? Are they really underperforming the investment? And maybe after a while, you kind of realize that your team principal is very, very keen on his emerging brand. And, may have taken his eye off of the brand that got him there, which is Haas Formula One.
Yeah.
All things to think about. I don't believe that Gene Haas is investing in that team at the level in which he needs to make that team a winning team, or even competitive, right? I would believe that you can see it from where you're at now. whether or not that's going to change next year, I doubt it. You've got 26 when the next regulations come in, but man, that's a long time away.
Yeah, that is. I was just
Yeah.
reading that today. That's 26 at the
Yeah.
new
And
regulations.
that's and that's one of the teams that is staunchly against an Andretti expansion team. Because guess who stands to lose the most? The last place team.
Mm-hmm.
Right? When you're divvying up
Which
the
seems
pie
silly.
into
You got an
11 pieces.
American-based team not
Yeah.
wanting another American team in there.
That's where you and I
know it's
differ,
not
though.
about that, but
I don't believe that Haas F1 is an American Formula One team. He's probably got a building in Carolina somewhere, but otherwise, their engineering and everything else is aligned in Maranello or whatever.
yeah.
So
Well,
doesn't feel
they
American
claim to be
to me.
American team.
Yep.
With Russian backing at one point. So.
Yeah. Right. Had to fire that guy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Everyone's favorite third generation driver, Marco Andretti, announced he'll be competing in select ARCA and NASCAR truck events in 2024. Big deal, Tim, or big deal?
It doesn't excite me, but it's a big deal.
Okay.
That's all I got to say about it. It'll be interesting. It's not going to have me dial in to the races for sure. Maybe one or two I might catch, but I'm not going to be like, oh, I've got to watch this, which I didn't watch the SRX series either.
Nope.
I think that's what it was called because it just didn't turn me on. But
we watched IROC?
Heck yeah. I almost said hell. Me
too.
Heck yeah. I'm going to watch that. But I think it's just nostalgic. I guess we're getting old, so we remember the past and want to bring that back and want to see them going around Michigan International Speedway.
Yes, we do. In the Camaros, right?
In the 80s bring Camaros, back the old cars.
Yeah.
Great. Everybody would tune it. Like, you imagine, at least initially. Yeah. And they bring in the big names and they put the names on the side of the cars and they're just purple, like they used to. Yeah. Green.
Castro
This is when PPG was the sponsor and they put all the latest colors that they're coming to passenger vehicles or exotic vehicles. It was a really cool thing. Anyway, I'll stop reminiscing. But I think everybody wants it, right? Like, I think if you took a poll, people would be like, yeah, let's do it. And it's going to happen, right? We already know it. It's going to happen.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Ray Evernham helped get the SRX thing off the ground, so which is shelved for this year. But I no doubt that he'll make that thing work.
Can't wait.
Couple of things for you. The DW12, it's lost 30 pounds this year, Tim. Big deal, big deal.
If it was me who lost 30, it's a big deal. But I think I think overall it's a big deal because they're going to be quicker, but they're just going to load the weight back on with the hybrid technology. Yeah. So I don't think it really matters.
Yeah,
it matters. It's important.
Let's lose 30 to gain 70. Yeah. Simon Pagenaud issued an update today. Seems he's still not 100%. Tim, that's a big deal.
That's a huge deal. Yeah.
Here we are, 6 months removed from that crash?
Too. Yeah, it's been a long time. But I think it goes to show that, concussions are serious and you got to take the right steps to get back to 100%. And as he mentioned, it doesn't show outwardly. It's obviously all internal stuff that's happening there. And that, you have your good days and you have your bad days, but you're not 100% to go out and race again, which I think he would have probably seen him in the 24 hours if he was well or, doing something this season. Yeah. So it's a bummer, but
hope he gets well soon. Nevertheless, I know this isn't how you want to end your career, but he's had an amazing career. He's an Indy 500 champion. He's an IndyCar champion. He drove for Team Penske. I mean, he's an IMSA champion. He's a very accomplished driver, but he wasn't given a choice in this matter, right? He was just taken from the car.
Yeah, it wasn't on his terms, and I think everybody wants to leave on their own terms. So
sure, yeah, we all do. That's all I got. Timmy, how about you?
A lot of good stuff in today's show, so I think a lot for the listeners to digest and go through. And then, you're going to Daytona. I don't have anything else. You guys are gonna have a great time, and
I hope so.
Make sure you take a lot of sunscreen. Get a lot of that. Lather it up.
I'm not as bullish about the weather as you are.
I looked this morning, 81 each day.
It's
That would be,
wonderful.
this would be the warmest one on record that you've gone to.
I would say, yeah, I would agree with that.
Yep.
I would agree with that.
Yep.
That's all I got. Continue to engage with us on social media. Thanks as always for listening. Season is starting. Season starts at Daytona, so it's gonna get fun from here. So thanks for tuning in. As always, engage with us on social media. Like I just said, send us things. We obviously read what you guys send us, emails and the comments and on the YouTube and the Twitter comments and everything else. So we thank you for that and looking forward to a great season. We'll catch you next time.
Good night.